My work isn't driven by technology itself. It is highly reliant on technology. So I always start with an idea, and however whatever means I have to employ to make that idea is what is that's the relationship. So it's more of a means to an end rather than me chasing the latest and greatest. If it requires that I use the latest and greatest, then I do. If I can use old technology that just enables the idea as succinctly as I can possibly and accurately as I imagine it, then I'll go with that. I don't use, so I'm not after necessarily the advancements of technology. It just so happens that my work often demands it. They are video installations. Most people ask, what is that exactly? They are moving image, so films if you want to call them that, installed often in galleries or museums or site-specific locations where the installation and the impact of that installation on the viewer is an essential part of the work. They don't deliver narrative over time necessarily. They are more like collapsed narratives in a singular landscape, if that makes sense. That's what they offer, where there's several ways to potentially read the work as to unpack what it is that you're looking at, the story behind it, and they kind of operate like, in that sense, moving photographs or moving paintings. That's the easiest way to describe them. What does it mean to me personally? My work. There's a set of interests that I have in the work. There's deep environmental concerns, but I'm also interested in science fiction and the function of science fiction and how we can experience another time and place through that lens, and in doing so look back upon our current situation with some measure of clarity. When the system of Houston is largely, it seems, has been built on that energy sector. And the reliance of that to continue to grow here, it's a difficult relationship, isn't it? Because you can be concerned about the environment and our future and at the same time acknowledge what enabled you to be here in the first place. It's very, very difficult. The art world's full of that contradiction, actually. If you look at a lot of the funding in the art world, it comes from those same sectors. So it's a difficult one that I negotiate, or that I think about a lot, about how we can move forward when we're also so reliant on a system in place which is not enabling us to move forward in a positive way. What I'm mainly interested in with a lot of these works is a kind of reimagining of the sublime, and so beauty is an essential part of that, and how original ideas of sublime, one of the explanations is that it's the greatest thing that we can possibly experience. It actually transcends beauty, so it's both incredibly beautiful and at the same time terrifying, and I would say that those two things live together. When we experience these tragedies, it can be very, very overwhelming, and it can have a sense of beauty to it at the same time. So it's more the sublime, I guess, that I'm interested in, that sort of, you cannot help yourself but see this kind of hypnotic, beautiful, mesmeric side to them, and at the same time recognize how threatening it is. But to embrace that beautiful side. And also I think as a viewer, this is how I engage people. If I just represented, if it was just tragic, if it was just terrifying, I wouldn't want to look at it myself. Who would, honestly? So I think I have to engage that other side to make people even want to consider what it is that I'm making work about in the first place. If it's just this kind of sense of awe and that's all they get, then I'm happy with that. If they stay longer and really think about what it is that they're looking at and why that landscape might exist, like I said, there's always a few different ways that you can read the work and come up with an explanation as to why that landscape exists in the future. And those different ways of reading the work relate to a series of interests that I have. And I will say that there's almost always they're not just dystopic, these things. It could be the opposite. You know, there might be a really positive explanation for what it is that you're looking at. The landscape with what seem to be loads of rockets leaving what is presumed to be planet Earth. And we could be looking at war, we could be looking at space exploration. Orion is the spacecraft that NASA is currently developing for deeper space travel, so it is named specifically after that. So that's the positive. Maybe we found a fairly close super Earth that we're all traveling to, or a number of people are traveling to. You know, there's always this positive wave. So it depends on the reader in terms of what what they want to get from it. The works are absolutely not just dystopic. I want people to think about where we're heading to a species and why. That's really important. But might is a two-way street, and there is hope, and there is this other hopeful way of reading the work too.